So, one of the more familiar stories in the New Testament is about Jesus turning a small amount of bread into enough food for a crowd of 5,000. We know this story as the loaves and the fishes. But, as with anything related to Jesus, the story is multi-layered. Jesus, the man, is emotionally exhausted at the time of this event. He's just learned of the death of John the Baptist, and he's overwhelmed, and he needs some space. He needs to grieve and he needs to pray. So the only place he can really be alone is in a boat out on the water. But even there, the crowds follow him. So Jesus, the Son of God, heals their sick, and then in the evening feeds 5,000 people from 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And the disciples have 12 baskets of bread left over. But for the purposes of today's sermon, let's focus on one of the underlying messages in this story. And that is God's ability to exponentially grow something small into something large. God has the ability to provide way more than we think is possible. But sometimes we have to take the initiative to get that bigger something started. And it's a defeatist attitude to say, there's nothing I can do. I'm only one person. The problem is too big. I have no influence. I have no capital, social or financial. And those are things that we often say to ourselves, or we hear people say to us. In 1928, Alexander Fleming left dirty petri dishes in a lab while on vacation. When he got back, he noticed that mold was killing the bacteria on the dishes. An example from science where a small act led to a large outcome, in this case, penicillin. It's noteworthy that this small act was unintentional, right? Sometimes life-changing events are unintentional. Or how about the small act of 4 black college students sitting at a whites-only lunch counter in North Carolina in 1960? The large outcome was a wave of lunch counter protests throughout the country that fueled the civil rights movement. But in actuality, often, people are overwhelmed by the size of the large outcome that is needed in order to make a difference. And that's when we go back to the thoughts of, but what can I do? And I'm only one person. But one person has power. As you're going to see in this video clip, the starfish thrower.
Excuse me, young man. What is it that you were doing?
Throwing starfish into the ocean.
I must ask, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?
The sun is up and the tide is going down. If I don't throw them in, they'll die.
But young man, do you not realize there are miles and miles of beach and starfish along each mile? You can't possibly make a difference.
It made a difference for that one.
In the book of Matthew, Jesus asks us to change and become like little children. The little boy in the starfish story, he may not be old enough or sophisticated enough to understand his impact along the beach that day. You see, he not only made a difference for the many starfish he threw back into the ocean, but he made a profound difference in the life of a cynical old man. Yes, God will exponentially grow a small seed into something larger than we can even imagine. Welcome to worship. We are so glad you're here.